are back again. It's the Horror Guys with episode 115.
115.
I am Kevin.
I'm Brian.
And we're here to talk about some horror movies and some shorts.
Horror movies?
Horror
us?
movies. Yes, that's us.
Well, what do we got?
Well, we have a 1984 film, The Company of Wolves.
Oh.
Which is kind of werewolfy. Yeah.
Kind of.
The Babysitter Killer Queen, which is a sequel that came out in 2020.
Yeah.
A classic, The Howling, from 1981.
Oh.
Even more classic, from 1973, Soylent Green. And a couple of cool shorts that we saw at the Film Fest that we're still catching up on.
Cool.
So,
and as usual, our podcast is brought to you by books.
Because we got books.
HorrorGuys.com/books. We have an ever-growing array of fiction and nonfiction for you. HorrorGuys.com/books. Check it out.
Buy them all. Buy them frequently.
Yeah.
Give them away.
And to reiterate last week's question, because we're recording both these shows at the same time, what do you think the difference is between
horror
and
science fiction?
Yeah, where's the dividing line?
It is a gray area sometimes.
Yeah, you got again, the best example I can come up with is probably Alien. Mm-hmm. It's on a spaceship. It's got an alien monster.
You got that claustrophobic feeling of people being
robots,
trapped.
It's got all that stuff.
Horrifying situation.
Yet it's clearly a horror movie.
Yeah, science.
Where do you draw the line? What is science fiction that is not horror, and what is horror that is not science fiction, and what do you consider both?
Yeah.
Tell us about
Soylent Green,
rules.
for instance, that we're going to be talking about this time. That's very science fiction-y.
But is it?
Well, sort of. Yeah.
It's looking at the future.
It was futuristic, yeah.
Yeah.
Back then, I mean, it's not as futuristic now.
It's kind of a weird movie.
Because we've caught up with it.
Because it's not science fiction. There's no spaceships. There's no robots. There's no...
Technology didn't really
Technology
advance.
Is like 1970s still.
Yeah, very much so.
And yet it takes place in the future, and it's a dystopian-type future.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no monsters. There's no gore.
It's just people.
Is it science fiction? Is it even horror? What the heck is this movie?
That's a good question.
But let's talk about that one first. Soylent Green from 1973.
Some of Charlton Heston's fine work.
Directed by Richard before he went totally crazy.
Well, I don't know. I think
maybe he was always that way?
I think he was a little bit, I mean,
that's just the way he was.
His political beliefs were back then too. Yeah. I think as he got older, he got more verbal about it and more, I don't care if I work again. This is how I believe kind of attitude.
Yeah.
I think he was more verbal about it as he got older. But yeah, I think he was always pretty political and had his beliefs.
Right.
But boy, what a fine actor. I mean, man,
he was in a lot of stuff.
I can
a lot of good
see
stuff.
why he was such a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Directed by Richard Fleischer, written by Stanley R. Greenberg and Harry Harrison, stars Charlton Heston, Edward G. Robinson, Lee Taylor Young, hour 37 minutes. I don't think it's streaming anywhere, but we've got an Amazon link where you can pick up a copy.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to pick up.
Did you like it?
I did, yeah. I did like it.
I remember seeing this when I was little, maybe 7 or 8 years old, and I remember being bored to death.
I think I saw it when it came out.
I saw it not too long after that.
Yeah, I think it was at the theater.
Mm-hmm.
One of those old-fashioned sit-down theaters where people would sit in seats next to each other. Crazy, I know.
That was a thing?
Yeah, it used to be a thing, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but I was bored to death as a 7 or 8 year old watching this thing. And as an adult, it's actually much better.
Yes.
I actually like it.
It's not really for kids.
No.
I mean, it's not going to terrify kids. I think it just bore them. I think most kids wouldn't appreciate it or really be interested in it.
Do you think it's dated in its message?
Well, a little bit.
Do you think things could ever really get like that?
No, I don't think so. Not quite. I think it's more of a parallel evolution of history, an alternate timeline. I don't think the way it's presented here would happen at this point.
I don't think it technically, scientifically, physically could happen.
Yeah. It's a parallel timeline.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
And it takes place in 2022, the far off future.
That's why I asked, could it happen? Because it's next year.
Well, no, because we're not there. So.
Well, we get a growth montage showing progress in the ever-increasing population in the cities and waste, pollution and trash everywhere, and credits roll.
So basically, the premise is
Overpopulation.
in the 60s, 70s, just a massive, massive population explosion. And, many, many more people than we have now, I think, especially in the cities.
Oh, he mentions a number at some point. It's something crazy.
Yeah, that the population just explodes.
Oh, here it is. The year is 2022 in New York City, whose population is 40 million, which is 5 times the reality of real 2021.
And it sounds like most of the world is that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's basically no unpopulated areas anymore. No.
Detective Thorne watches a TV ad for high-energy plankton crackers called Soylent Green, made of plankton and stuff from the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
He talks to Saul Roth, his elderly roommate. Their home is full of books, and the old man doesn't like the food nowadays. Tasteless crud, he says. Greenhouse effect. A heat wave all year long. How can anything survive like this, he asks. What? Greenhouse effect?
Mm-hmm.
In the 70s?
In the 70s, yeah.
Okay, well, there's something we're still dealing with.
Yes.
Thorne leaves the apartment, and he literally has to step over dozens of people on the way down the stairs. People are living in the middle of the street, so the cars can't drive. So, yeah, there's people everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Very dense.
Simonson is a rich man who buys a video game machine for his young companion, Cheryl. Cheryl goes to the store and buys the rarest thing they have, actual beef.
And I think it's interesting, too, with the massive population, it's almost like they didn't, nobody came up with ways to deal with, where to house and how to feed and, all these people. They just
People just laying in the streets.
Just breed out of control and, without any social solutions to it. I remember reading...
Which I really just don't see how that would even be possible.
Yeah. I mean there's a science fiction novel, The World Inside, where this happened, but the society dealt with it. There's these massive buildings that basically house 1 million people in a building.
Yeah.
And, the rest of the world is kept pristine and green and used for growing food, and the population is concentrated and it's very functional and very clean, and
but that's not
this
here.
is just like everybody breed without anything to offset it at all.
And there's trash everywhere, and there's nothing to eat.
Yeah. So it's very apocalyptic.
So this man named Gilbert breaks into Simonson's apartment to kill him. The two have a short discussion, and Simon says, yeah, go ahead, do it. And they kill him. So Simonson is dead.
Yep. Rich guy.
Very rich.
Yeah. One of the, and he's
the top of the top.
It's a great big nice apartment that he's got to himself and his companion, and security cameras, which didn't do any good in this case, but security wall that the guy climbs over. But yeah, he's a rich guy.
Well, Detective Thorne is assigned to investigate the murder. He meets Tab Fielding, Simonson's bodyguard, and Cheryl also. Apparently Cheryl is furniture, or a paid permanent companion that just sort of goes with the apartment.
This is one of the society things that...
Well, your apartment has, let's see, it's got a full 2.5 bathrooms, it's got full hot and cold running water, it's got air conditioning, and it's got furniture.
Furniture, yeah. That's just what they refer to our... Yeah.
Well, Thorne is more interested in the fabulous apartment than he is anything Tab can tell him. Thorne steals the liquor and a bar of soap from the apartment and some food, and the disposal unit takes Simonson's body away in an actual garbage truck. The garbage trucks here look just like they do. In 100 years of cars...
You find a design that works, I guess. You just keep using it.
100 years of trucks, and garbage trucks haven't changed since the 70s. It looks like the same thing that drives down our street every week.
It does, yeah.
Garbage trucks have not changed.
No.
Thorne takes the booze, books, and some food home to Saul, including the beef. Saul literally cries at the sight of the meat. At the police station, we see that all the cops are at least a little bit corrupt.
Yeah, the common people just don't get fresh food or real food anymore. No.
We see a banner. Tuesday is Soylent Green Day. People line up for water in jugs, and it's wall to wall. Thorne follows Tab Fielding as he's the prime suspect in the assassination. He talks to Tab's furniture.
Yeah, he's got a furniture of his own.
He does, yeah. Which he shouldn't be able to afford furniture of his own.
So, that makes the cop suspicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Later, Saul prepares all the food Thorne stole and shows him how to eat it, because Thorne has never even seen an apple before. He doesn't know how to... What do you do with it? Saul does research and finds that Simonson had ties to Santini, the governor, and that he was also a board member of Soylent, the company that controls the food supply for half the world.
Yeah, there's Soylent Red and there's Soylent... There's different colors, too.
The green is the stuff people really like. Mm-hmm. We see that the man who hired Gilbert, the assassin, is talking with Thorne's police captain. Thorne goes back to talk to Cheryl, and they have sex after Thorne samples everything else in the apartment. Thorne goes to a church that now serves as a very overcrowded shelter for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. The priest is confused and in a daze. I assume he's on drugs of something.
Well, I think
or
he
he's
was
gone insane from the truth.
I think he just kind of went bonkers from the truth. Yeah, that he couldn't handle it. Yeah.
But he tells Thorne that he knows the truth, but won't go any further than that.
I think it was more of a shell-shocked dealing with it.
Later, we find out that Simonson had confessed to the priest and told him whatever the secret was.
Yeah.
The police captain tells Thorne that the Simonson case is closed now. You're done with this. Thorne says Captain Hatcher was bought, which he was. We see that Governor Santini is behind the whole cover-up, and Tab Fielding goes to confession and kills the priest that Thorne has already spoken to.
And that's what I liked about, you mentioned the cops all seem to be at least a little bit corrupt.
Uh-huh.
And even Charlton Heston's
character
he is too. But he still comes, he manages, which I credit Charlton Heston pulling it off, that, he's kind of corrupt, but he's also a good cop and a fundamentally good guy. He's
not above stealing food.
But he's not above stealing food
and
doing some of these minor corrupt things too. Yeah. So, yeah.
Thorne,
he's a mix.
Thorne is then demoted to riot control duty, watching the people in the Soylent Green lines. The supply runs out and the crowd is sent home. Instead, they riot and it gets pretty messy. They literally start scooping up people and dumping them into trucks with, backhoes.
Mm-hmm.
Which,
crowd control.
Yeah, we got enough crowd, you can do that.
Yeah.
Gilbert shoots at Thorne in the commotion, but it turns out he gets killed by a scoop truck. Well, there was a little gore in this movie, wasn't
that was
there?
kind of graphic.
Yeah, there was. Yeah. Afterwards, Thorne goes and confronts Tab Fielding and threatens to kill Tab if anyone comes after him. Meanwhile, Saul goes to the Exchange, a special research place, and what he finds there is too hard to believe. It's basically just a library, isn't it?
Yeah,
with a bunch of librarians hide in the back.
People his age and even older, I think. That the keeper of the archives basically holding the books and the old records. Well, Simonson
had these books that Thorne stole, something about oceanographic research, and Saul read them and he saw something in there that he didn't like, so he took it to this place for confirmation.
And they did some more research and said, "Oh,
that's true.
You're right. Yeah."
Thorne then goes to see Cheryl to relax some more. When he gets back to his place, Saul has left him a note saying, "I'm going home." Saul then goes to a place where there are many people in line. The orderly takes him to the back where the people take good care of him. There's nice music, a good drink, and a massage. Then they push the button, and Saul watches flowers and nature on a big screen. Thorne arrives and watches with him. He never believed the world used to be that beautiful. Saul tells Thorne what he learned, but we don't hear what he says. There's scratchiness on the speakers.
Technical difficulties. Yeah.
Saul then dies, and this whole place, it turns out, is a suicide factory. It's a euthanasia hospital, basically.
Yeah.
Thorne follows as Saul's body goes into the garbage truck, and he hops aboard to see where it goes. He watches the garbage truck empty its contents, hundreds of bodies into a chute. He hops off the truck and goes inside the industrial complex. The bodies go down a conveyor belt, dumped into a tub, and is converted into...
Soylent Green.
Oh, Soylent Green is people?
Waste not, want not.
Thorne runs out of
Franklin would say.
He didn't have this in mind. Thorne runs out of the complex and back to town. There's a shootout, and Thorne gets shot by Fielding. Fielding follows the trails of blood back to the church, but it's so crowded he can't find Thorne. The two men finally face off, and Thorne stabs Fielding. Captain Hatcher comes in, and Thorne tells him to go to the exchange for proof. Thorne explains, the ocean is dying. That's what the books were saying.
Mm-hmm.
Soylent Green is made out of people. That's what he found out. Hatcher promises to tell everyone. Will he?
And will it make any difference if he does? You.
In a situation like that, should it matter?
Yeah.
They're not really like killing people for food. They're just taking the dead ones.
Uh-huh. Well, so far.
So far, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that wrong? Well, it's not exactly apocalyptic, but it's certainly dystopian. The overpopulation, unceasing heat, and lack of real food are always present in the film. Even in this world, with real food impossible to find and everyone showing quiet desperation, lettuce doesn't impress Thorne.
No, it didn't.
He's got the steak, he's got the apples, he's got vegetables and meat, and Saul makes him a salad, and he's like,
Nibbles at it. And,
bleh.
Really?
I imagine that's a Heston thing there.
Maybe.
Real men don't eat salad.
I don't know. Yeah.
Well, there's a video game in the film, but for the most part, there's very little attempt to show any futuristic technology.
No, it's like, it's still 70s.
Everything stopped in the
it's
70s.
Still 70s style. Everything
Yeah.
is, very 70s.
Thorne,
50 years after the 70s, it's still the 70s.
which is the thing. It's not the future for us anymore, but if things had happened like that in the 70s, that's when it
It
would
might
have
have
gone
gotten
bad.
arrested.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Thorne and Saul's home is full of books, but no computers are seen anywhere. Also, is it just me, or have garbage trucks not changed at all in the past 50 years?
Yep.
There's no monsters here, no blood and no gore, very little gore, but it's definitely a horror film. The world itself is the horror in this one. The cannibalism thing is there, but that's only right at the very end. The real horror is trying to live in this hellhole of a world. The system here literally feeds upon itself.
Yum.
Soylent Green is people.
And the book is different.
You have read the book.
I have.
What's the book about?
It's more of just a crime story. He's trying to solve a murder in this ridiculously overcrowded world and overcrowded city. A lot of the dystopian elements are still there.
Is it people?
I don't remember that being mentioned or being a thing. If it is, it's way in the background or implied. It's a cop story, and it ends with it ends at New Year's. He solved the crime at the end, and and there's news bulletins of what's happening in the world, and it's New Year's fireworks going off, and
Sounds cool.
The Soylent Green as people is not a thing.
That's the problem with
The
books
book
of
is
this
actually
age.
called Make Room, or
Oh, yeah,
something.
yeah.
Is it twice?
Make room, make room.
Yeah. It's not titled Soylent Green.
The problem with a movie this old is finding the novelization at this point. I'm sure it was a big bestseller at the time, or else they wouldn't have made a movie out of it.
Yeah.
But good luck finding it now.
Oh, I'm sure it's out there. Yeah.
Logan's Run.
Yeah.
You can't find a book of that made in the past 30 years. You got to get one from the 70s.
You have to get an old copy. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Which
Kindle?
I found, which
Don't
I did
even-
find on eBay. Yeah. An old copy of Logan's Run, which is
A good book,
different.
too. Yeah, it's also very
a good
different
book
from the
and
movie.
quite different than the movie. Yeah.
Yeah. But Logan's Run is definitely science fiction, not
Yes.
horror.
Yes, it is mostly.
Well, which takes us to The Company of Wolves from 1984.
Which was definitely fairy tale horror.
A very fairy tale horror.
Yeah, very, very, very fairy tale oriented. Yes,
Yeah, this
definitely.
has
well, it's Red Riding Hood.
Well, this has Angela Lansbury in it, so I was real skeptical about how horrible it was going to be.
It's pretty horrible.
Werewolves She Wrote
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Directed by Neil Jordan, written by Angela Carter and Neil Jordan, stars Sarah Patterson, Angela Lansbury, and David Warner, who I would watch David Warner in just about anything, but he's really wasted here. He does almost nothing.
He needed to be in this more. Yeah.
Runtime, 1 hour, 35 minutes, and there is a link in the show notes. Did you like it?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I was
overall,
surprisingly, I liked this better than I thought
I
I
was
was going to.
pleasantly surprised, I have to say. Yeah. I was going in skeptical about it a bit, and
The movie poster is really lame looking.
Kinda.
It's like Never-Ending Story or one of those kids kind of things. And you can see Red Riding Hood right on the cover and Grandma and the Wolf, and you're like, oh man, this is going to be a kids movie.
wasn't expecting to be as
This is
as
not
much
a
horror.
kids movie.
No,
don't
no,
let your
don't,
kids
don't
watch
let your
this.
children. It's rated R, and yeah.
Yeah. Well, the younger sister in a family has a dream in her ultra-creepy bedroom full of ultra-creepy toys. I didn't have any kids. Did you have any toys that looked like that? Scary-looking crap?
Oh, I had all kinds of scary stuff as a kid, yeah.
All right.
Models and, yeah. I was
Well, then
an
you
early
got
fan
monsters or something, sure, but these were like girls' dolls, and they were just
I
nasty.
didn't have very many nasty girls' dolls, no.
All right. Well, she dreams of her older sister out in the woods, running as giant creepy dolls follow her. She's chased by a pack of wolves with red eyes, which eventually catch up and kill her. The younger sister smiles in her sleep. So, we got a dream going here.
Yeah. Story within a story already.
Back in the story, we see Rosaline, the younger sister, who is saying goodbye to her older sister as they board her up in a coffin and bury her. So that really happened. She's dead. Grandma gives the girl a gingerbread cookie to eat during the funeral. And Grandma, you ever watch like Sylvester and Tweety? Mm-hmm. The old lady that owns them?
Yeah.
This is her.
Yeah. I think so.
A 10 out of 10.
Very much so, yeah.
Rosaline goes off to live with her grandmother in a fairy tale small village near the woods since her parents are distraught over their dead oldest daughter. Once you stray from the path, you are lost entirely. Wild beasts wait for us in the woods, Grandma says. She then adds, also, never trust a man whose eyebrows meet. The worst kinds of
she
wolves.
knows from experience.
Yeah. The worst kind of wolves are hairy on the inside, and they drag you straight to hell. My grandma always came up with stuff like that. Never trust a man whose eyebrows meet. All right. Well, maybe that'll be important later. We'll see.
It will be.
Grandma starts a story about a young bride and groom on their wedding day. His family didn't come to the wedding, but he seems to think that maybe that's not a bad thing. He comes out of the shadows, and we see that his eyebrows meet.
And then you slowly realize this is Grandma when she was young.
You think it was?
I think it was. She was telling her own story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he explains that he has to go outside as the call of nature. It's the full moon out there. She looks out the window and sees many wolves out there, but no husband. The next morning, the man has vanished. The girl eventually remarried, and the years passed. The man returns and calls her an adulteress. He tears his own face off, piece by piece. After he pulls all the skin off, he turns into a werewolf. The woodsman comes in and cuts the monster's head off.
And I'm going to hop in right there and say, this was the most painful looking werewolf transition that I've ever seen in a movie.
We talked about An American Werewolf in London just last week.
His transition looked painful.
This is worse.
This looks worse.
This is much worse, yes.
And there's some others in the movie, too, that are painful.
This is the worst.
This one, wow. You got to see it for this alone.
Yeah. You wouldn't think being a werewolf would be all that bad, but not if you got to go through this.
This makes it look awful.
Yeah. Well, the next morning, Rosaline meets a boy who likes her. And Grandma explains that the priest's bastards often grow up into wolves, she says. It's time for another story.
Yep.
A boy walks through the woods, and a big white car with a man inside stops for him. The man hands him a small bottle containing something. The boy puts some of the liquid on his chest, and hair starts to grow there, and then the forest eats him. What?
What?
That was a short one. Okay. Grandma makes a pretty red cloak for Rosaline before she goes back home to her parents. Rosaline and the boy go for a walk in the woods, and soon they stray from the path. The boy runs back to town, but Rosaline is out there with the wolves. She returns unscathed, but has a weird baby doll in her hand that hatched from an egg. That baby doll thing never comes back, does it?
I don't think it does, no.
That was pointless.
Just some of the weirdness.
Yeah. Her father goes out hunting for the wolf. While he's gone, Rosaline tells her mother a story. This time, it's a wedding in France. A pregnant woman comes in, the groom's mistress. The wolves in the forest are more decent, she curses. The guests then all turn into wolves and run away. Mother starts thinking Rosaline is spending too much time with her crazy old grandmother.
All these awesome stories.
While the father out in the wood kills the wolf and cuts off its forepaw, the largest he's ever seen. He brings it home, unwraps the package, and it's a human hand.
Whoops.
Why would you cut off a wolf's paw?
Why not?
What good is it?
Yeah, what good is it? Yeah, exactly.
Well, they burn the hand of the fire. Rosaline then meets a well-dressed man in the woods. She notices his eyebrows meet. He shows her a compass, which is the most amazing thing she's ever seen. He explains that he's just gotten on the path. He wasn't always on that path. She makes a bet with him that he can't get to Granny's house before she can. She knows the way, but he has the compass. He gives her his hat and they split up. The race is on. Well, the man gets there first, and as he approaches, he starts bleeding. He comes in, and Grandma immediately recognizes what he is. And then he literally knocks her head off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one's a little graphic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rosaline arrives, and he pretends to be a granny, but for about 5 seconds.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Granny, what big teeth you have. What big eyes you have.
Yeah, it doesn't last very long.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the Red Riding Hood story. Yeah.
She notices Granny in the fire. Is that all you left of her? What big eyes you have. Well, you did win the bet.
Yeah, but he cheated.
She seems surprisingly unupset about seeing Grandma in the fire.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, she shoots him, which sets off another painful transformation scene, and he turns into just a big wolf, and she decides to tell him a story. She's surprisingly calm with all this.
Yeah, she is.
A she-wolf once came to the village from the underworld via a well. She was wounded by a hunter and ran to a church. The priest came outside and found a hairy little girl. He took her in and helped her heal. Eventually, she returned to the village and went back to the underworld. All right, well, Rosaline's family and the villagers show up and find a wolf inside the house. It's wearing Rosaline's cross. Her father shoots at it, but the wolf runs off into the woods to be in the company
of wolves.
Meanwhile, back in modern times, the real Rosaline is still dreaming in bed when hundreds of wolves break into the house and take her away with them as well.
So that was sort of the wraparound story of the anthology.
That was a pointless wraparound
and it
story.
wasn't, yeah, the wraparound was weak in this.
The girl was asleep when we started the story. She had a dream about all this stuff, and at the end she was killed or something.
Yeah.
There was
that was the weakest part of
anything to that story.
Other than that, I thought it was a winner.
Yeah, I thought so too. The cinematography, sets, and visuals are really impressive, and the dream sequence was really well done.
And, presenting it like fairy tales.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was neat.
It couldn't be any more live-action fairy tale storybook if it tried. Mm-hmm. The story within a story framework is complex, but not hard to follow.
Yeah, I like it.
And this, what you just said, this may be the most painful, agonizing, harshest werewolf transformation scene ever.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin said, this is like The Thing level change.
Yeah, a couple of them are.
And he wasn't wrong.
Uh-huh.
There's one part where he kind of turns into this blob and this dog's head pops out.
Yeah,
it looks just like the scene of The Thing with the dogs.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's like the werewolf comes out from inside him.
Yeah.
And discards the
peels
skin.
off,
Yeah,
yes.
it's, ew.
The different stories have different levels of effects, but they're all entertaining. Like the one with the French people.
That was
It was not
painful.
so graphic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just start sprouting hair and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Granny Rosaline dynamic is obviously leading us toward a Little Red Riding Hood story at some point, but it's fun to get there and see what the context is.
Mm-hmm.
And the allegory here is that all men are beasts, and werewolves seem to be kind of like rapists in most regards. You get out there, you get off the path, and the wolves will take their way with you. Gotta watch out. All right, well, it's got a variety of special effects, and most of them are excellent, and I'd say it's definitely worth it if you have any liking to fairy tale villages, and the sets alone are worth the cost of admission. This was before CGI, so all those sets had to be practical. Yeah, those buildings and things were pretty cool.
Very cool. What else we got?
We got some short films.
Deep Learning.
Deep Learning from 2020.
When technology goes wrong.
But did it go wrong?
Well,
or was it doing what it was supposed to?
Or was it? Well, yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, this one was cool. I liked this one.
Yeah, called...
speaking of horror and science fiction,
yeah,
this one blurs the line for sure.
Directed by Andrew Ladone, written by Andrew Ladone and Sean Swearingen, stars Karen Fiorino, Cara Marizzi, and Mike Perosi, 15 minutes long. A woman listens to her mother nagging. A rat runs through the living room. Myra has enough and smothers the old hag.
Or does she?
Well, the video then has an error, so Myra calls the company to complain. The videos they generate for her usually make her happy, but this one not so much.
It's like it taps into your mind and
Shows you what you want to see.
You want to see as entertainment.
Yeah, the murder was just a computer-generated error, not really what she wanted.
No, certainly not. Or was it?
In real life, Myra's mother really is a harpy. Myra keeps thinking about the murder video, and she decides to watch it again. Myra's ex rambles around some kind of metaphysical garbage, and she calls the company to complain again. No, it's another weird computer video. Later, she watches one that has her as a baby. Okay. My question is, what was the point of the rats?
Part of her mind, part of her subconscious.
Was that on the video or was that real?
Good question.
Okay.
I think it really blurred the line. You couldn't tell for sure.
Yeah, rats on the
She
brain.
couldn't tell for sure. Yeah, that's what was cool about it.
Well, sometimes computers are smarter than we are, and this film proves it. It knows what's best for us. I was expecting Myra to kill her mother for real, but that never really happens here.
Or does it?
I wanted that to happen, so this was kind of disappointing.
Which was the video and which was real?
Yeah.
Well, there's the question.
Was she showing us what she wanted to see, what she wanted to do, or was it suggesting what she should do?
I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
Because it does make you wonder.
Uh-huh. Short film, The Keeping Cost, also from 2020. Written and directed by Travis Darkow, stars Kelsey Darkow and Travis Darkow. 10 minutes. Well, this one's weird. This is weird. The whole film plays backwards.
Well, yeah, and it's a perpetual cycle. It loops over and over.
Sorta.
Yeah.
But it's different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A guy sits on the step, spattered in blood. He's holding a note. "He did this," is written on the back of the family photo. He gets up and unbeats a guy to death with a hammer, because it's in reverse.
Which, and it made me think of, what was that movie with Guy Pearce where he couldn't have any permanent memories? Memento.
Yeah, a little bit.
It reminded me a little bit of that.
He walks backwards into a shed and then inside the house, where he goes backwards into the driveway and gets into his car. He then gets back out of the car, goes in the shed for a hammer, and beats a man to death with it. He then goes over, sits down, and looks at his photo. Backwards and forwards.
Uh-huh.
Then he beats him to death with a baseball bat. Then he shoots the guy. Now the note says, "You did this." He screams, "There has to be another way." And then we see the whole thing again in reverse, and then in forwards again. All right. And you like this one?
I thought it worked for me, yeah. And
Okay.
It made me wonder what's really going on. Is he stuck in some kind of purgatory or some VR that's gone bad? Or, apparently he's getting revenge against this guy over and over. And he left the note for himself. Yeah, I don't know.
We don't know.
I thought it was intriguing. I liked it.
All right.
Yeah, I don't. You didn't like it as
I didn't.
well?
I don't get it.
Yeah.
Yes, he killed the guy several different ways. A time loop? Trying to end a story a different way? I don't think
exactly
I
know.
missed anything here. There just wasn't anything to make sense of.
It's just not clearly explained. It makes,
There
makes you wonder.
There was some decent gore shots here, but the story literally made no sense to me. All right, and then we got two left. Which one? Which one you want to do next?
We should do The Howling.
Oh, okay. On to the next film.
1981.
1981, The Howling, directed by Joe Dante, written by Gary Brandner and John Sayles, stars Dee Wallace, Patrick McNee, Dennis Dugan, hour and 31 minutes. Did you like it?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I did again. Yeah, this one I saw when it came out, and yeah, I've seen it at least one other time since, and now this third time I've seen it.
Not actually done a list of werewolf movies, but I would say this is in the top 3 for sure. Mm-hmm. Maybe
a lot of
number
people
1.
Consider it up there in their top 10 of all time. And,
Of werewolf films, at least.
Yes, werewolf films. Yeah. And we haven't gotten to it yet, but I know that I enjoy Howling 2 as well.
We're going to have to see that pretty soon.
Yeah.
Dr. Wagner, a psychiatrist, is being interviewed on TV, and he talks a lot about animal magnetism. We should never try to deny the animal, the beast within, he explains. Well, Karen White, a reporter, is transmitting to the police as she walks the streets, investigating a series of murders. She's checking out a lead known only as Eddie, who called in a tip. Bill Neal is Karen's husband, and he's standing by with the police listening to the radio. Chris has wired Karen for sound, and Bill isn't happy that Chris let the radio fail. They have no idea where she is as she goes to meet Eddie. Karen goes to an adult bookstore. What's that? Do they still have those?
Oh, yeah.
With the internet?
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, they still exist. They're not like they used to, but yeah, they're still a thing.
And goes into a small video booth where Eddie awaits. Eddie says he can light her up. Karen feels something unusual about Eddie before the cops break in and shoot him to death as she watches. She can't remember or explain what happened afterwards, but she has nightmares.
Yeah, there's some kind of seduction and
something went on in that
something.
booth.
Yeah, she's clearly under his influence, and yeah,
Chris,
I thought it was really well done.
Yeah.
And we don't see Eddie yet.
We don't know what happened there. Yeah,
and Eddie is actually the holographic doctor from Star Trek.
Yeah.
Robert Picardo.
Yeah.
His first film role. And you barely recognize him when you do see him.
I guess I have not seen this since Voyager was on, because I didn't know that was him when I didn't pay attention to that guy when this came out.
No, I didn't either. Yeah.
This was his first role?
This was his first movie role.
All right, yeah.
He'd done a lot of stage stuff, and
Well, I know he was in like Inner Space and lots of other things.
Oh, he did. Yeah,
he did a lot of
he's
stuff
done tons of stuff
before
since
Voyager.
Then, before Voyager, yes.
Now it seems like all he does is YouTube videos. Well, Chris and Terry go to investigate Eddie's apartment, and Eddie has some pretty weird art in there. Bones, pictures of wolf-faced people, and a drawing of Karen.
Obsession.
They take his art to Dr. Wagner for his opinion on Eddie. The next night on the news, Karen goes live to tell her story. She just can't do it. She freezes. The station sends her to see Dr. Wagner for help. He recommends that she go to the Colony, a place he runs that lets people get away from it all and work on group therapy. They arrive, and the picnic on the beach is full of 80s B-list celebrities. Marcia, a woman with bones around her neck, comes on to Bill, but he's not interested. Marcia doesn't care for Wagner, and he says that she's a strong woman. John Carradine is there as Earl, who isn't looking too happy to be there, and screams that he just wants to end it all and die. Apparently that's a regular thing for him. It's not like the old days. Wagner leads the old man away from the others. Marcia's brother, T.C., seems to be watching Karen really closely.
He likes Karen. Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, they got the guy from the A1 steak sauce commercials cooking on the grill.
There's lots of recognizable faces in this.
If you were there in the 80s, you'll recognize lots of faces. Meanwhile, Chris and Terry go to the morgue to check on Eddie and find that his body is missing and the door to the morgue drawer has been torn up.
Whoops.
The pair go to an occult bookstore, and the owner tells them all about werewolves. This guy has even got a box of silver bullets for sale.
In case you want to kill him for real.
That night, they watch the original The Wolfman movie on TV. Even a man who is pure at heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the moon is clear and bright.
That's right.
Something, probably a wolf, kills a deer that night, and the next morning the Colony folks, including Bill, all go out hunting for whatever killed it. Bill shoots a rabbit, and TC volunteers Marcia to cook it for him. He leaves to avoid Marcia, and on the way back to his cabin, he's jumped by a big animal. He gets away, but he's hurt and hungry for meat.
Suddenly, he
wasn't a meat
very
eater.
Hungry for meat.
He killed that rabbit, but he didn't want to eat it because he's a vegetarian. He didn't like meat.
He's not anymore.
He likes meat now. They call Chris and Terry, who join them at the Colony. Bill goes out wandering at night, and this time he doesn't avoid Marcia. They have sex by the campfire, and there's lots of howling from the surrounding woods as they both show their fangs. They both turn, and now they have werewolf sex. Ooh.
Ow!
Terry records the howls on her recorder that night. She notices that one of Eddie's drawings was done right where she is standing, so there must be a connection between Eddie and the colony. Marcia continues exploring and ends up at a cabin that appears to be Eddie's. The door breaks down and a werewolf attacks her. She hacks its arm off with an axe. The severed arm turns into a human hand as she watches.
Hey, just like in that other movie.
It did, yeah. She gets away and crossover. She gets away and runs back to the main building and calls Chris. Terry checks Wagner's files and finds that Marcia, TC, and Eddie are all related. Then the werewolf finds her and finally kills her. And that's the big werewolf transformation scene there.
Mm-hmm.
Karen and Bill fight about Marcia. She goes to Wagner's office to use the phone and finds Terry's body as well as Eddie. Oh no, here it comes. Eddie says,
"Oh, that's the one. Yes.
I want to give you a piece of my mind," and pulls out a piece before turning into a werewolf in the big transformation scene.
Well, he pulls out one of the bullets.
Yeah.
Yeah, because silver bullets don't really hurt him. Well, I mean, they hurt, but...
Well, silver bullets do, but these are regular bullets.
Regular bullets, yes. When he got shot from the cops.
Yeah.
Yeah, he still got a bullet in his head that he pulls out.
Ouch. She throws acid in his face and runs away, straight into the arms of Marcia and all of the other colony members. Dr. Wagner comes in, and she thinks he's going to help, but nope, he's one of them as well.
Whoops.
They're
all in on it.
Yep, they all are. He wants to change the way they do things to avoid being discovered, but not all the others agree with him.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting, the werewolf politics.
Yeah.
And he's trying to encourage them, raise cattle, raise cows, hunt deer, and they're like, no, humans are our prey. That's how it needs to be.
You can't tame what's meant to be wild, Doc. It ain't natural,
That's
explains
right.
Earl.
Yep.
Chris drives as fast as he can to get there, but runs into traffic. He finally arrives and finds the files on Marcia and the others. He confronts Eddie, who doesn't realize Chris bought silver bullets from the bookseller. Chris kills Eddie and then confronts the others. He kills a few, but locks the others in the barn and sets it on fire. They get in the car and drive off, killing the sheriff along the way. Soon they find themselves surrounded by werewolves, and Karen is bitten.
Uh-oh.
We have to warn people, Chris. We have to make them believe, Karen says. When they get back to the station, Karen cleans up and goes live on the air to tell the story. Just after she gets started, she transforms right there on the air in front of everyone.
Into the cutest werewolf ever.
She didn't want to be a scary werewolf.
Yeah, Dee Wallace encouraged that look herself. I read in the trivia.
Kind of looks like Chewbacca.
Or a chihuahua or something. I mean, there's definitely some cuteness to it. No, not nearly as fierce looking as the other werewolves. The snout is much flatter. And
Yeah. Take her home and feed her some kibble and
yep, she'll be fine.
Wait for morning. And then we switch scenes to a bar where we see Marcia ordering a rare hamburger.
Uh-oh.
At least some of the colony wolves escaped.
So, there could be a sequel.
There could be
Yeah.
several sequels.
Yeah.
Well, the cast list on this film is enough to make it a must-see all by itself. It's got nearly everyone who was anyone in the 80s.
It's a lot of people.
And
yeah.
even a few extra surprises with cameos. Part of the fun watching this is figuring out who the werewolf is. We see pretty early that Marcia is one, but is she the only one? Eddie's transformation scene is one of the longest and most detailed of all these kind of scenes, taking several long minutes to complete as Karen watches in shock and horror. The actual werewolf creatures aren't particularly impressive, but the transformation is definitely exceptional. And this is one of the best werewolf films, arguably the best ever done.
It's mighty good. You should all see it.
Yes.
If you haven't already.
How many sequels were there? I know there were 3. 1 and 2 and 3. Was there 4?
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised if there were.
We're going to have to check that out.
How many Howling films were there?
Yeah. I'm sure it was one too many, whatever the number turns out to be. That's the way these usually go.
Oh, some of them do go on too long.
Yeah. Hellraiser.
8. There are 8 Howling movies.
8 Howling films?
There are. I've not seen them all.
Some of those had to be direct-to-video.
Yes, definitely.
Could be worse. Could be Amityville.
The Howling Reborn in 2011 was the latest one.
Been a while. Time for a reboot.
Definitely.
All right. Well, our final film this week is also the newest. It's called The Babysitter Killer Queen from 2020.
Don't spoil this too much.
And we did the Babysitter film about a month ago, and we both liked the Babysitter pretty good. It was fun.
I think I might have liked this even better.
You did?
I think so.
Okay, I did not.
Once it got going.
Directed by Mick G., written by Dan Lagana and Brad Morris, stars Judah Lewis, Samara Weaving, and Jenny Ortega, the two main characters from the previous film. Runtime, hour and 42 minutes. And Kevin liked it, and I am somewhat lower on the scale.
So, some time has passed.
2 years after the end of the previous film, Cole is a little taller now, but still has nightmares about his experience. All that stuff happened, but there was no evidence afterwards. How could there not be evidence?
She used magic. Magic was used.
All right.
Yeah.
So no one believes it all happened. His psychiatrist is also the school nurse.
It only looks like he went nuts and stole the car and drove it into the house, and
the dead bodies and the blood are all gone.
There were no dead bodies, no evidence of.
There was so much blood in that living room.
Yeah, it just looks like he did this stuff, and nobody believes him.
Yeah.
No.
Well, there's a new student, Phoebe, in his class. Melanie remembers that night, but she won't talk about it. Phoebe is very strange, and Cole likes her. Melanie, who looks a lot like Bee from the first film, but isn't, invites Cole to go to the lake with her and her friends this weekend, but Cole won't be able to get his parents' permission. All right, now, Melanie was in the first film, and it's the same actress. I looked. It is the same actress.
Yeah.
Does she look like the clone of Samara Weaving? Because I think they intended for her to fool people into thinking she was the babysitter.
Yeah, I think so.
There's such a resemblance there. The way she dresses, the hair, the look on her, the facial shape. Mm-hmm. I think they were trying to give us the whole, look, we recast the role kind of thing. Without actually doing it.
Yeah, I think maybe, yeah.
But it's just weird that it's the same actress from that other role. And it just turned out she looked like her co-star.
Yeah.
Well, they arrive at the lake, and it's the most crowded beach ever. Cole spots Phoebe there, and Cole notices that he has no cell service. What?
What?
Their houseboat seems bigger on the inside than the outside.
It's a TARDIS.
It really is a big one on the inside.
It really is, yeah.
Melanie asks him about the Devil's Book, which he never mentioned to her before. What? How does she know about this?
Huh.
Then she kills the other character, Boom Boom, with a knife to the neck.
And then we know how she knows about it.
Yeah. Suddenly, all the evil characters from the first film are back. They have until dawn to finish the ritual, or they have to go back to hell for another 2 years. What? For 2 more years?
What? Another sequel?
What? You say the Babysitter Part 3?
It could be.
Cole and Phoebe ride away on a jet ski, and he explains it all to her. She has no trouble believing him. Phoebe and Cole split up, and she finds a guy camping alone. The guy tries to grab her, but Cole interrupts. Sonia comes after them with a flamethrower, but she learns that a car is the deadlier weapon, and the surfboard is even worse.
And this is pretty gory. Yeah, very gory. Lots of blood.
Allison comes after them with her gun, but she's so stupid she shoots herself again just before she gets beheaded. Max is next, who is eaten by a boat. These people don't last very long. They go boom, boom, boom. Cole and Phoebe talk as they ride the boat away and start to bond. They make their way to the cabin where Phoebe was heading in the first place. After a bit of bathroom humor, they head down into the cellar, where Melanie and John arrive outside while the two fathers drive to the lake. Phoebe explains to Cole how she accidentally killed her parents, and they experience all the sexual euphemisms at once.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I should probably stop there.
Because stuff happens.
Stuff happens, yes. Okay, well, would you like to explain what you liked and how you liked it? Because I'm going to tell my opinion in a minute.
Well, I liked how nobody believed him, and then eventually everybody believes him this time around.
By the end, yes.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they'll forget by the next movie. That's the way these things work.
Well, maybe, yeah.
All right, well, my opinion, this film was so boring in the first half that it kept shifting to the kids' fathers getting high and playing games just to keep the the show funny.
You thought the beginning went on a little too long then?
Hour and a half too long at least.
It wasn't that long. It did take a while to get going. Yeah.
Well, Melanie, Emily Ann Lind, looks almost exactly like Samara Weaving here. And I wonder how many people watching this didn't realize that it wasn't even the same actress playing the role. She's Melanie here, not Bea, so it's not really the same character, but it is. We know it is. Weaving's career took off, so they found a lookalike to replace her. Sorta, kinda.
Sorta, kinda.
Samara Weaving does show up in a couple of very short flashback sequences that probably didn't take more than 10 minutes to film, and then one scene right at the end. I think this was nowhere near as good as the first film, but it does have a few good moments in it.
I thought it was as good as the first film.
Okay, I kind of like the first film. I would give the first film an 8. I would give this a 5.
Okay, I'd give them both 8s.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
And that is our show. Thanks for joining us. Stop in during the week at horrormovieguys.com for news and horror updates, to comment on the podcast, or to contact us. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/horrormovieguys for our group there. Or follow us on Twitter at horrormovieguys. And we will be watching. Guess what we're going to watch next week?
I have no idea. What are we going to
More
watch?
horror films.
No.
Yeah.
More movies?
We'll watch 3
They
or
keep
4
making
horror
more?
films and some shorts.
We haven't caught up on all of them yet?
We're caught up on our backlist. We are current now with our podcast.
Huh.
Yeah, we've gotten all caught up on podcasts. It's time to do something radical.
Like watch more movies.
Like watch more movies, yes. I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
We'll see you next week.
See ya.